To be unique, you must create mystique. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. This is Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Mr. Matt Suggs on. Matt has another unique background, kind of like Jason. He came from a big company. He was actually employee number 393 at Ariba before they were acquired by SAP, but he wanted to get back to the small side of things. He was employee number 10 at MediaFly. Now they've grown up to 75 employees. So still on the small side, but doing big things, and you will like his advice on connecting with B2B salespeople and how their own product as well. I may have to have them on the CRM Sushi podcast to demo because they are an alternative to PowerPoint. Praise the Lord. Oh, my goodness. But I digress. You know, it's been tough getting this going here. I got the trash guy here, and they're beeping going on, the dogs. Monday, the cleaning lady comes. We're going to have to move that. I do all my recordings on Mondays, and so my wife has the cleaning lady come. She wants to vacuum. Amen to vacuuming, but it does impact with recording. And then my 20-year-old son just came home. He's had long hair since I don't even know when. I think all through high school. I'd have to go back and look at pictures. So easily 4 years, maybe 6 years. I don't know. And he came home just now with a buzz cut. Oh, but still my beating heart. He looks so good. So I had to delay that for about 5 minutes to go see my boy. So it's crazy times here in the summer at the Sales Whisperer Casa. But you didn't tune in for that. No, you didn't. So we're going to bring Matt on. But if you're listening to this before July 5th, or even after July 5th, you know, I'm starting another live portion of the Make Every Sale community. But actually, after talking with Tom Poland, so Tom, he's going to be published here in about a month. Actually, maybe just a few weeks. But Tom has given me some really good insight on how to structure my group training. And that's the benefit of doing this podcast. I get great advice from great people, and I apply it. You know, I am not a know-it-all. I think if you've listened to this more than a few times, you know. I might know one or two things about one or two things, but I don't know everything about everything. And so I'm looking at a couple of ways to run the Make Every Sale course and to keep it fresh, to keep it going, because I like doing the live training. Everybody says, oh, record all this stuff on demand, and, you know, you don't have to be there. And it's like there's this big race to just sit on your butt. And, I mean, I kind of get it, but I kind of don't. I don't think we were put on this earth to coast. I don't think we were put on this earth to work our fingers to the bone and die at the desk either. I think we're supposed to work. We're supposed to produce. And I know that my life changed in 2006 when I took the live 12-week teleclass from Steve Clark. I've had him on the podcast. I was able to meet him in person back in January. The first time in a while I'd seen him, and I spoke to this mastermind group for a couple of hours. But that 12-week course, and it was just a teleclass, no Facebook groups, no video, no archives, no physical products. You know, it was a PDF, but that live call gave me hope. I had something to look forward to every week. And because I was passionate, Steve, he would answer my questions offline. And I remember one time he even took a phone call from me when I was preparing for a big meeting. And again, that was above and beyond. And I don't know, that just stuck with me. I feel like having some type of live interaction, regular interaction, not this once a month stuff, you know, not this, be like Bigfoot and you're lucky to ever see me. I don't think that's the way to do it. I have on-demand content. There's 41 videos in the Make Every Sale course. There is a workbook. There's PDFs. There's spreadsheets. There's all type of good stuff. But I think that weekly call is important. And I've been doing it nonstop for a couple of years, several years. And I've done a live 7-call push a few times. I'm just not big onto launches and whatnot. So long answer to telling you, stay tuned for more access through a couple of programs, group programs. So they're going to be affordable, and you get access to me. So stay tuned. But if you would like to enroll now in the Make Every Sale course, please do. MakeEverySale.com. And like I said, we're going to be doing some live 7-part series starting July 5th, 2018 and beyond. But now let's bring on our guest. Matt Suggs, Executive Vice President, MediaFly, all the way from Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
I'm good. All right, man. Important question right off the bat. Two important questions. Was USF as good at football when you were there, or did they get better once you left?
Well, they got dramatically better once I left because they didn't have a football team until 1997, I think. So
well,
I left. So they
I guess they did get better.
Yeah, they did get better because they had nothing. They had nothing when I was there. So.
And I see you were in the Army, which is almost as good as the Air Force. So, welcome to a fellow veteran.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
So, man, MediaFly, you're a little different for someone on the show. You've got a lot of big company experience. Looking back at GE, SAP, well, was it SAP, which is Ariba?
Yeah, so I was at Ariba before they got acquired.
Okay.
And so, the way I look at my background is certainly the Army and General Electric and Oracle are all really large organizations. Ariba, when I joined, I was employee number 393 and watched it go to about 2,000 employees and then kind of back down to, around 1,000. And then I moved over to Oracle, which at the time they had about 115,000. I was there when they made the acquisition of Sun Microsystems. They had done like 50 acquisitions in the 4 years prior to me joining the company.
Right.
And then I went to become employee number 10 at MediaFly. So I've worked at a variety of different size organizations.
Right. And how big is MediaFly now?
We've got about 75 employees.
Cool.
Most of them are located in Chicago. So our development organization, operations, headquarters, all located at Michigan Avenue in one of the more well-known buildings in town. The Crane Communications building is always highlighted in the skyline when they show football games at Soldier Field. And
right.
So it's a really great space. And we've been there for 2 or 3 years now.
So are you managing and leading remotely then?
Yeah. Like I tell most people, I spend most of my time on the airplane. And actually later today, I'll be flying down to Sapphire Conference, SAP's big user group conference in Florida. But I find that commuting out of Raleigh is a lot more convenient than commuting out of Chicago.
Right.
So, yeah.
As long as there's not hurricanes, right?
True. Yeah.
So your salespeople, do they live in their own territories?
They do for the most part. We do have a concentration because we're a startup. We do have a concentration of people in Chicago, but I've got folks on the West Coast as well. We've had employees on the West Coast for several years because we have a few of the large studios are customers of ours as well, like the Walt Disney Company and NBC Universal and Sony Pictures Entertainment. So we've had a California presence for a while. And we have employees. I also manage the customer success team. And so really everybody that touches the customer ultimately reports to me. And I've got employees in the Pacific Northwest and Florida as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Can y'all talk to Disney about Star Wars? I mean, this whole Han Solo thing, they should have done better, man. Can you whip them into shape?
Well, I think I'm not sure. I haven't seen the movie yet. So I think that, the issue was the production. You heard a lot of rumors about the production. I think that's hurting, the box office a little bit because they had to they changed out the director, I think, and a few other things. But, you look at everything else they're doing, with all the Marvel products and the Star Wars franchise, they've been doing pretty well the last few years.
They've made a billion or two here or there. Pretty soon we're talking real money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the challenges you face with having a remote sales team? I know historically, that's been my background. 22 years in sales. I've always lived in the field, in my territory. Sometimes not seeing my boss for weeks, months on end sometimes when I was with a really small startup.
Yeah.
For our listeners that may be in that startup mode, maybe in trying to grow a smaller company with a remote team, what have you found to be, some good ways to manage that team and continue that up and to the right?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge especially for a sales leader being remote is actually the connection to the rest of the staff. It's not really the connection to the salespeople. I find that our normal pipeline activities and managing deals and going out and meeting with customers keeps me in really close touch with my salespeople. I even assist with one of our folks in Munich. I talk to him on a regular basis, and he doesn't actually report to me; he reports to somebody else. But I find that staying connected with the salespeople is relatively easy, but I have to put in a little extra effort to stay connected with our product and engineering team and the other operational parts of our business. So that's probably the bigger challenge. I think today with all the changes in remote conferencing and web-based conferencing, it's pretty easy to jump into a virtual conference room with a group of people and stay connected with them.
Yeah, I remember one of my first sales jobs selling mobile homes in Mobile, Alabama. Our manager paid for us to go to the factory. And I don't even remember where it was. I want to say it was in Georgia. So it wasn't just, a day trip. Because he wanted us to get to know them. And then I was working with kind of a startup. They'd been around for a long time, but got acquired by a bigger company. So it kind of had that feel. And they were up in Utica, New York. So I'd fly from Austin to Utica, and that is not an easy trip. But my boss knew, he wanted us to know the people there, the people making the product, the people shipping the product, the people helping with the RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. And it did. It made a difference.
It absolutely makes a difference to know the folks that are producing the product. And when I was at Ariba, we would make regular trips out to California, where the primary engineering group was at the time. And that's how you built relationships with them. It was a lot more challenging when I went to work at Oracle, because we had product teams that were geographically distributed as well. So, I think the key is, in today's world, with all the web conferencing capabilities, that's how we stay in touch with folks. Even our engineering team, we've got remote workers today. So the world's becoming more virtual, and the tools have kind of kept, or I would say they've permitted that. So
right. So would you say, is that what you're doing with MediaFly? I mean, you've been there over 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's saying, so it's aimed at the large enterprise, right? But you're saying from LinkedIn, I'm reading, right? Enables your salespeople to deliver real-time, relevant, and personalized insights when meetings with their with their customers. I'm sorry, when meeting with their customers and prospects. So is it some kind of dashboard? Is it like a right-hand column sort of thing in Outlook and Gmail that pulls in information? So it's at my fingertips?
So we have some of those capabilities, like the integration to Outlook, integration to things like Salesforce, where I can access all my sales and marketing collateral from inside of Salesforce.com. The primary objective of MediaFly is it's an application that you, unlike those other solutions, it's an application that you use in front of your customer. So you organize your presentation materials, and it can be a wide variety of things, from video, PowerPoints, PDFs, all kinds of different marketing pieces that you might have. You can assemble those into a contiguous presentation that feels seamless to the customer. So the idea is that we make it much easier for your typical salesperson to assemble content that they want to go out and use in front of a client. And then while they're presenting to the client, we're able to track those experiences and do some things like automatic call reporting. We're able to use machine learning to analyze what content works most effectively with clients. We're able to provide the salesperson with tracking when they share content with a customer to see if they actually opened it. So those types of things. It's really designed to be the frontline selling tool for both the large enterprise and small and medium business customers alike. So, we do have a lot of, great logos like Goldman Sachs and PepsiCo and Miller Coors, the Walt Disney Company, which you've already mentioned. But we also have smaller customers that have sales teams that are, some just a few dozen people, and they're able to use the same exact solution.
So walk me through that, because you're saying it's used in front of them, but as the salesperson, I'm leveraging the tool to acquire the assets and build out that flow ahead of time, right? So when I do meet them, it helps me with the presentation?
Yeah, you actually present out of the solution. So it's think about it as something that can exist on your smartphone, your iPad, or on your laptop computer, and it can operate completely offline. So you don't need a network connection to provide these experiences to your customer. And so I go out and present just like you would open up your laptop and present from PowerPoint. Instead of using that application to present one type of content, now I would open up MediaFly. It's branded for our customers, and they leverage that application in front of their clients, and present all kinds of content. And likewise, if I'm talking to a client and they say, well, I'm also interested in this other product that you have, instead of kind of fishing around on your laptop looking for things, it gives you the ability to pivot in the meeting and bring up additional relevant insights to that customer.
So when do you teach your salespeople to begin presenting versus probing?
Well, what's interesting about the way things have changed, I think, over the last 20 or 30 years. When I first started in software nearly 20 years ago, they always said, you always start with discovery. And the challenge with that is that a lot of the B2B buyers are getting frustrated educating the next salesperson that walks in the door. So, what we are telling our salespeople to do, and what I've been telling salespeople inside and outside of MediaFly to do more recently, is that they need to sprinkle in those relevant insights that you use to overcome the friction, the force of static friction in an account. You have to use those in conjunction with your little bit while you're doing the discovery, so that you keep the client engaged.
You cut out just a little bit on that last part. Can you say that again? You talking about keeping them engaged?
Well, you want to combine you want to combine some relevant insights. So, things about that B2B buyer's business that would help them improve that business. You want to include that with the discovery.
Sure.
So I think one area of frustration and friction between buyers and sellers is the thought that, the buyer is sitting there dreading the next initial conversation with a vendor because they're going to spend the whole time answering questions.
Right.
And, likewise, you don't want to go in and just turn on the fire hose and say, and start spouting off every marketing message and detail about your product. You want it to feel like a conversation. And,
right.
So what we generally do is, at MediaFly, and a lot of our customers do this as well, is they have presentation materials that are really used as conversation starters, but it is much more of a conversation than it is a presentation.
Right. How hard is it to learn?
The MediaFly product?
Right.
Well, so what's interesting is our founder, Carson Conant, started the company as a place to leverage one account across many devices to access digital media like podcasts. And so our application actually started out as a consumer facing application. So it requires little or no training. There are some aspects to it, some specific features that are a little more detailed today, like how the integration works to Salesforce.com, or how the integration works to how to get the most out of your existing relationship with SAP's Sales Cloud solution. But in general, a salesperson can open up the application and immediately they can see where they search for content, how they assemble it, and it's very easy to present the solution.
Does the prospect know that they're being tracked? Do they know? Is it like a read receipt going on, or is it done under the hood?
So like the tracking of the content that's shared with the customer, right. They probably wouldn't know that it was happening. But that's very common today. If you receive content that's coming out of a marketing automation solution, chances are it's being tracked.
Right.
So it's the thought process behind this is that a salesperson, they can see which customers are engaging with the content and which aren't, so that they can prioritize their follow-ups.
Right.
Oftentimes you'll share content with a customer and they ask for the content, they ask for the information, but they're really just trying to be friendly, trying to be polite, and they're not actually interested in your product.
Right.
And so those types of trackers are critical to understanding whether somebody's really interested.
Yeah, for sure. So what have you found to be the most effective way to reach out and even generate that initial conversation with these enterprise prospects? Because they're traditionally pretty hard to reach. I mean, they can afford to have multiple levels of gatekeepers, and they can be tough to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think in our business, one of the challenges, the first challenge I think a marketing organization has to understand is the personas that they're targeting. And in our particular business, it's pretty challenging to find that exact right person in an account. So there's a lot of effort that goes into that. But I think once you identify that right person, the person that would be interested in our type of solution, generally the best way to trigger that person to respond or to engage with you is through some relevant insights that are specific to their industry. So, for example, we sent out. We have a lot of customers in the food and beverage or CPG space, and we sent out a nurturing campaign. It was an email-based campaign talking about the impact of our solution on those types of customers. So it was tailored to the people that were receiving it, and and that generated the right kinds of responses. We were getting either accounts that we had talked to in the past that hadn't engaged with us came back as a result of that email campaign, and we've identified some additional opportunities that way. We've done a lot I don't think there's one right answer. I mean, you have to do some cold calling. You have to do some direct outreach, but we've tried also as a small company, you've got to leverage technology in order to get the economies of scale and to scale your business to reach all the potential customers. I think the other thing is, especially when you get into the SMB space, is that just increases the number of potential accounts. And so leveraging technology is critical for that.
Yeah. Do you think, is technology removing the human aspect of things? I mean, I know in the enterprise space, even the large SMB space, I mean, these guys aren't hanging out on Facebook and Instagram. You're not going to hit them with a Snapchat story or ad.
Yeah, it's definitely, what's happening, I think, to the B2B buyer as a result of changes in technology. I mean, I've read articles. I'm sure you've read some of these articles in the past 3 or 4 years. One of them by Forrester was called "Death of a Salesman," and the reality, I think, this is kind of my personal opinion, is that it changes the way that you sell, but it doesn't change the need for the salesperson. So the B2B buyers have more access to data than ever before. And there's two types of data that they have access to. The first one is, data about the products and services they want to buy. They can go onto the internet today and find a lot more information than they could 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and certainly, 15, 20 years ago. So they're educating themselves online, and they're also leveraging additional resources, traditional analysts, colleagues through solutions like LinkedIn, social media platforms. There's forums out there that are specific to certain industries and certain solution areas. Our solutions featured on things like G2 Crowd, which is a crowdsourced, it's almost like crowdsourced analysis. So there's all these different places that you can access information about solutions and services they might want to buy. The problem is that some of the data that they access is correct, but some of it's inaccurate. So I think the salesperson has to be thinking today, what did they learn about me and my product before I even talked to them? What myths did they learn that I have to dispel? And then what messaging did they pick up on that I actually want to reinforce? So the mindset of the salesperson used to be in discovery. I was just thinking about what was the customer's problem. Now I've got to think about what's the customer's problem and what do they think they know about my products and services.
Yeah,
So that's kind of the first set of data, and then the second set is, the data that they actually have about their own business. 20 years ago, when I was working, one of my first jobs at GE, my first sales jobs, the first part of the buying process with one of our customers was to tell the customer what they had bought from us. So they didn't, we had all the data and they didn't have the data. That's definitely changed. I had a customer at Ariba call me one time to ask for the address of one of their suppliers. That was how bad things used to be. Today, they've got a lot more access to information. I think that the key is understanding what can they leverage, what can that customer leverage through those insights, when they're going out and selling. And that's what we focus on when we go in to talk to the customer is what data do you have, and can your salespeople actually use it in the field? And we've been really successful with a few of our clients that had great data but weren't leveraging it, and we put it into our application in a way that the salesperson could apply it at the exact right moment with their clients to drive that client to action.
So you mentioned doing an email campaign in B2B.
Yeah.
How have you seen the effectiveness of email change in the last, say, 5 years?
Well, certainly with the number of emails that you get, I know I get a lot of emails as a result of my title. And I think that the key there is, if the subject line has got to have the hook in it. And it's got to be something unique. And they have to feel like it's not just another inbound email campaign. What we've seen is that the open rates, if you look at just email campaigns in general, open rates are probably declining. I'd say most organizations would say that. We found that we really have to have those campaigns very tailored and send them to the exact right person to get the open rates that we need. You're really still talking about single digit open rates on most campaigns. And
how many times will you hit a good prospect with email versus other forms of communication?
Well, what we'll do is if we we have a couple of different ways of targeting folks with email. If there's somebody that we've qualified as a lead and maybe they've interacted with our website, we basically insert them into nurturing campaigns. And because what we found is that those clients or those prospects, many of them are interested in what we do, but it's just a matter of the timing. So we think it's critical to stay foremost in their mind so that when the timing is right, they will eventually respond to one of those. And I would say that, maybe a third of our customers came to us as a result of continuous drip of nurturing type materials over a period of months or even in some cases a couple of years. And then when the moment was right for them, then they responded to one of those. And I think that depending on the prospect, and we'll prioritize some of those prospects, and we'll go to a more direct approach of trying to schedule a meeting through cold calling, or we've also done outreach through direct mail. Actually sending an individual letter to somebody versus sending emails to people.
Do you use a good old-fashioned handwritten letter?
Yeah, or a hand-signed typed letter. Kind of depends on the prospect. We found that we've got a few in the large enterprise space. If you send a letter and it gets to the admin, and then you follow up with the admin, a lot of times you can get some time on someone's calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Just by being nice to the executive assistant, huh?
Yeah. He or she is usually the key to everything. So.
Right. They know the calendar, if the boss is in a good mood, or they're making their numbers.
Yeah.
If they forget the anniversary, now they're in the doghouse. I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Treat the executive assistant nicely. So what are you seeing, like with the individual salespeople calling on large enterprise? Is it effective to even try to do like door to door, like to show up? Or do they have to work the phones, work the emails, get that remote demo confirmed first? Or can they go to the big cities and knock on doors?
Yeah. So what I've found is if it's not an existing customer, then the door to door is not effective. Because I think that it's off-putting for certainly for executives. They're just not going to take a meeting with somebody that literally shows up. They want the courtesy of having you schedule something on the calendar. Yeah. And the only place where I've seen kind of door-to-door be effective in the large enterprises, when I was at Oracle, I had a set of accounts, and a bunch of them were in Chicago, and I could literally park the car and make 4 or 5 sales calls without getting back in the car. And maybe you just drop in and see somebody, but you already knew them, they knew you. That's different than showing up out of the blue. You can't. Chasing smokestacks used to be a model in the industrial space, but it's a lot tougher today, I think.
Do you follow any form of like the ultimate sales machine, the Dream 50 or the Dream 100, and just have your team just go after those until they get them?
Well, what we do is we look at industries where we've had some success, and we prioritize prospects based on that, trying to either expand into like in our case the CPG or financial services industry, maybe the entertainment industry, or we'll take a concerted effort to try and break into a new industry with a very targeted focused message around that industry, either based on our capabilities or a customer case study. So that's, but we do, there's definitely a set of accounts that are prioritized over others. It's not always just the top, the top 50. A lot of times it's based on, like I said, an industry focus. We collaborate internally to determine what things are working and what things aren't as we go out and target those high profile prospects.
Do you recommend leveraging like competitors' names? Like, let's say you just close a big deal with Chevy, would you send a message to Ford and say, hey, we just wrapped up a big deal with Chevy. You interested in something similar?
Yeah, I think it's dependent on the industry. So I think some industries that's really effective, and some prospects that can be effective. I think there's others where it can be seen as a negative.
Mm-hmm.
If we have PepsiCo as one of our biggest customers, and their competitors, folks like the Coca-Cola company, they don't respond. They would not be the ones that would respond well to us saying, "Oh, Pepsi uses this." Coca-Cola would be like, "Well, we're going to use something else then." So
right.
I think there are definitely examples where that can be effective, but also you got to be careful just to think about the culture of that. How competitive are they? Are they arch enemies or
right.
just rivals? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can always, even without name dropping, you could mention you've had success in that industry, in the automotive industry, without ruffling feathers.
Well, the nice thing too is many of our customers are being in the large enterprise, their competitors already know what they're using in the market. So,
right.
if let's say hypothetically I was talking to Anheuser-Busch, they know that MillerCoors uses our solution.
Right.
And then there are other ones where, they might be in a related industry. I've got a company that's a prospect that's in a food industry, but they benchmark with some of the beverage companies. And so through that, they learn that, MillerCoors or PepsiCo is using MediaFly.
Right. All right, man. Final question. You ready for it?
Sure.
So I like to ask, imagine our listeners, they're jogging, they're on a plane, as you're about to be. Maybe they didn't fork over the $5 or $15 for Wi-Fi. They're driving, can't do something right now, but as soon as they get somewhere where they can apply a lesson from this podcast, what's some final words of wisdom? What should they go do today to move the needle, to grow their sales, to develop themselves, do something? Because I don't want people to just listen. I want them to apply as a result of this interview.
Well, I think the first thing is they need to think about those prospects when they get in for that initial engagement. They need to think about where they need to re-educate and in some cases reinforce what that B2B buyer has learned before they showed up. Because that's a big change that I've seen in selling over the past 20 years, is that buyer thinks they're more educated than they were before.
Right.
The second thing is they need to show up on day one with some relevant, hopefully data-driven insights about a way they can improve that B2B buyer's business. We did a study a couple years ago, and other respondents, and there's several hundred B2B buyer respondents, 74% of them said that they would buy from the first seller that brought those types of insights to their desk. So I think that's critical. And thinking about back to that conversation around should I be presenting or should I be doing discovery in that first meeting? The combination of the two, I think, is actually the most powerful.
Right.
Then I think if you're in a transactional selling industry, and there are a lot of great salespeople that are in transactional style businesses, you got to figure out a way to try to automate those transactions, and so that you can focus your salespeople's engagement on value-added services that makes your relationship so critical to that buyer's business that they can't leave you.
Right.
So in the clients that we have that are transactional selling industries, that's been really effective, because switching costs, switching costs and loyalty are connected directly. And what we see is switching costs in most industries are going down. And you've got to figure out a way to keep those clients thinking that you're the company that can really continue to drive their business forward.
Right. Can we go back real quick to that 74%? Was that a study that you did with your company of your own?
Yeah, it's a study that we did along with Forrester. It's a joint thought leadership paper that we did with Forrester, which is a major analyst firm. Sure. Yeah.
And so you're saying 74% of the B2B buyers would buy from the first salesperson that actually essentially showed up and brought some value and some meaningful insight and recommendations rather than just asking them questions till they died?
Yeah, asking questions till they die, or even worse, just brought the PowerPoint in that they showed to the last 10 customers.
Right. That's powerful.
Yeah. It's also when you think about all the engagements that you might have had over your career, most salespeople would say, okay, I get that. I've seen it myself. If they think about it, they would quickly understand that that's the reason.
Yeah. Matt Suggs, MediaFly. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast, man. Hope you have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
A lot of good info in there. I loved his approach on, email marketing, have a good hook. The death of a salesman, talking about Forrester. Of course, the professional salesperson is still needed. Professional people are always needed in every industry. They always will be. Even as technology takes over, you still have to know how to fix the technology, how to program the technology, how to troubleshoot it, how to help improve it. But in sales, the person-to-person, human-to-human connection is just always going to be needed. We're spiritual beings with a physical presence. So how are you helping connect the dots? And so, I like his approach. And you notice too, he's a calm dude. He's not this, stand on his head, swing from the chandelier type. He's methodical in what he does, but he's professional. His caring, his concern, his empathy comes through. And that's what you need to be doing in your business as well. Make sure that comes through. Like you said, show up by adding value. I loved how he's talking about, multimedia, multi-touch marketing to stay top of mind. If you've listened to me at all for any length of time, I've been pounding that drum forever. Multimedia, multi-step, multi-touch. That means email. That means direct mail. That means phone calls. That means send a handwritten letter. Follow them on social media. Send them a fax if you can get their information. Figure out how to cut through the clutter. Okay? Multimedia, multi-touch. If you've listened to this for any amount of time as well, you know that I've been offering my sales training flashcards. You get the digital version for free if you leave me a 5-star review. Do a screenshot of it, Google Play, wherever you listen, Spotify, iHeartRadio, please subscribe. That sure does help me. You'll be surprised how much that helps. It helps pop up in the rankings so people find the show. The more people that find the show come and small percentage end up buying, and I only need a small percentage. So your reviews really help, but I don't know who does it. So if you send me an email, wes@thesaleswhisperer.com, I'll send you my sales training flashcards for free, okay, the digital version. And I just trust that you won't share them. Like Zig Ziglar says, they're copyrighted by law, so they're prohibited from being shared by law and prevented by your good conscience. That Zig was a smart dude. So leave me a review, and I will send those to you. I sell those for $20. Sell them all the time, and they're worth $20. It's 51 pages of objections and how to handle them with some room in there for you to write down a few of your own. You can also join us for free at theimplementors.com. That's my free private Facebook group for listeners. So find me there, ask your questions. I'm happy to answer them. If I'm not on a call or doing some work like this, I'm online and I'm happy to answer it and help you. It's just my way of giving back, making sure you are still growing. I've also been contacted to give some talks. I'm going to Slovenia in November to speak at the Simple Conference, SEMPL. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been approached to speak in Florida next May. So it's a good 11 months out. That's how these places book. But if you're looking for a keynote speaker, if you've got an association, 400, 500, up to, 1,000, maybe a couple thousand, but on the smaller side, not these 10 or 20,000, 50,000 person arenas. I'd probably like that, but I like the smaller venues. I do a keynote, and then quite often I'm asked to stick around for the next day and lead some breakout sessions. But if you go to hirethebestspeaker.com, that will redirect to my speaker page. So, if you've got an association, national association, a state association, a regional association, I'm actually having meeting for coffee on when? Tuesday, July 3rd, with a realtor that is involved in the Southern California chapter of a real estate association. So we're in talks for me to speak to that group. So if you're looking for a speaker that will customize the talk and fit it to your organization, to your goals, maybe you've got a theme for the event, I'm happy to customize it for you. So please keep me in mind, spread the word. And again, hirethebestspeaker.com. That's my website, my speaking page. You see some of my talks. I've done a TEDx talk. I've done opening keynotes in Vegas, Santa Barbara, Phoenix, quite a few places. And I can do one for you. Another thing I'd like to remind you of is my book. It takes more than a big smile, a good idea, and a Twitter account to build a business that lasts. 79 stories on selling with integrity, automating your marketing, and living abundantly. I've gotten great feedback from that over the years, some nice testimonials in there as well. And it's super cheap, 79stories.info. If you go there, and it's 79, the number, 79stories.info. You can buy 5 and save some money. So if you got a few in the office, if you have a bunch, just contact me through my website, and I'm happy to autograph all of them, and you can save on shipping and even on the price of the books if you order them in bundles. But you can buy 1 or 5 on the website right now. So do that as well, 79stories.info. As always, thank you for listening. Now go sell something.